Harry's Wife 102.81.1 Unearthed Treasure. AOL Interview. Video Analysis Part 1. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I know that you find video analyses of famous and infamous people extremely helpful in understanding narcissism and seeing it in action. I have been provided with an interview which I understand it's approximately spring 2016, so it's prior to when Harry's wife became involved with Harry. Interestingly, as a consequence of the criticisms that Harry's wife recently experienced, the list in a recent article commented, as the royal family and fans all over the world continue to grapple with the heartbreaking death of Queen Elizabeth II, social media has turned their anger once again towards the Duchess of Sussex. Harry's wife's trending hashtag on Twitter is anything but flattering, following confirmation the Sussexes would be staying in the United Kingdom throughout the official royal mourning period. Among other things, critics are telling Harry's wife to go back to America immediately. As one commentator argued, I'm finding it hard to understand why she is over here due to her criticism of the firm in the Oprah interview. She should have gone back to the United States and left Harry here. However, amid harsh backlash towards the Duchess of Sussex, an older interview she conducted prior to hooking up with Harry is doing the rounds. A Twitter user shared a clip from an AOL interview with Harry's wife pointing out, "She is real and authentic. She has not changed." Well, she hasn't changed because she remains the narcissist that she always has been since her narcissism was forged. And that individual passing comment that she's real and authentic doesn't understand narcissism and doesn't understand what they're witnessing in this interview. As I've explained on many occasions, that as a consequence of looking at a wealth of material over a sustained period of time, one establishes that a person is a narcissist, and thereafter we interpret all of the things that they say and they do through that prism of narcissism when it comes to interactions with other people, potential interactions or non-interactions that have arisen in relation to people. Thus, having established what they are, this allows you to interpret everything that follows thereafter through that lens. Accordingly, we can interpret Harry's wife's behaviour in this forthcoming interview to demonstrate she's far from real and authentic, and indeed pointing out various facets of her narcissism at work to enable you to understand what's going on, but also to see those aspects of narcissism operating in real life to help you understand more about that and spot them. I'm going to play the interview in sections, and then each time allowing you to watch it and then describe thereafter what you have witnessed. The interview commences with showing a segment from Suits. I'm not going to show you that because it's boring and not really relevant. And then it's straight into the interview, which is where we are now going to start.
Hi, Meghan. I promise this Donna won't tear your heart out.
Thank you. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
So Meghan stars in Suits, which had a very, for her at least, unfortunate season finale, in which her love went to the big house.
That's right.
Would you care to elaborate on that?
You know what's so hard is that I don't know how many people are watching this. I know it's live streaming, right? And ooh, social media will kill you for spoilers.
But I mean, if it's already aired,
I know.
I'm totally with you, like, before it airs, but at some point you have to be like, dude,
Like, we can talk about what exists. Yeah, I mean, I'm sensitive to it because we have so many global followers of the show who aren't able to see it as quickly. But I will say yes. I mean, obviously, season 5 ended with a pretty turbulent, not cliffhanger, but a really finite ending. And so I think for a lot of people, the biggest question was, what happens now? Where do we go from there in season 6? Especially because, is there going to be a time jump? Are we going to start off somewhere else? No, it's starting in real time. We are starting right after we left off.
Oh, really? The show returns this summer, by the way.
Yes, it comes back in June. So we start going back to filming April 4th. So I can't wait to have my Suits family back with me. It's been a while. We've been on hiatus for a couple months.
As mentioned, prior to this, there was a couple of minutes worth of a scene where Harry's wife's character is talking about the potential for her on-screen love interest, I think, going to prison. And we then cut to the beginning of the interview involving Donna Friedkin. You'll note that she's said hello, and when she's introduced and asked a question, she immediately interrupts the flow of the conversation to turn and greet the audience. Now, you might think, well, she's just being polite, but remember, her narcissism is at large throughout all of this. So first of all, it shows her sense of entitlement by virtue of the fact that she has not responded to the interviewer. It shows rudeness by turning away from her. It also demonstrates the need of her narcissism, however, to assert control over everybody that's there. Now, there's a potential risk to the failure to assert control over the interviewer, but her narcissism needs her to assert control over the audience, and that means turning and with facade management greeting everybody and saying hello. They respond with a bit of clapping and the odd cheer, which demonstrates that she has them under control, and of course they have provided her with fuel from those tertiary sources. The interviewer continues by explaining that the season finale wasn't a particularly good one for Harry's wife's character because her love interest went to prison, and invites her to elaborate. Harry's wife again shows her sense of entitlement by not elaborating, but basically saying, in an attempt to belittle her host, by pointing out that you've issued a spoiler and social media will kill you. This is demonstrative of her need to issue a corrective devaluation to the interviewer, because Harry's wife's narcissism perceives that the interviewer has committed a faux pas by making mention of something that has happened. Of course, this shows the lack of cognitive function of Harry's wife and how that impacts through her narcissism, because she's basically making mention about a spoiler when something has already aired. This immediately is picked up on by the interviewer, who defends herself by saying, but it's already aired. And Harry's wife responds with, I know. Well, if you know that, why then are you complaining about it being a spoiler? That empty-headed response, where she just gawps, I know, is demonstrative of the way that her narcissism functions, that she's not cold and calculating, that in the moment she fucks up in this way, and her narcissism causes her to assert or seek to assert control over the interviewer by belittling her, and gets it wrong. She then responds with, we can talk about what exists, as her narcissism seeks to salvage the situation, and then goes further by talking about, I'm sensitive to it, there are global followers who might not yet have seen it. Here, her narcissism is playing catch-up. It went diving in there to belittle the interviewer by pointing out, oh, spoiler, I'm going to get one over on you and point out that you're an idiot for doing that, only for it to backfire because the interviewer points out it's already been aired. You'll notice throughout this that the response of the interviewer to point out that she got it wrong because it's already aired causes anxiety for Harry's wife, and we see the repeated hand-waving that's going on and hair-touching, which is symptomatic of the sensation, subconscious, of her not having control. She goes on to explain essentially that there isn't going to be a time jump and that she's been on a hiatus for a couple of months, and she sort of turns in a conspiratorial way towards the audience as if to say, oh, I've been on a hiatus for a couple of months. Again, it's a slightly incongruous response. What are you trying to do? Suggest that you've been doing something nefarious in that hiatus? Or that, wow, look at me, I'm exciting because I've been on hiatus? That's the delusion of her grandiosity at play there. She gets nothing back from the audience in that regard. But you'll notice that as soon as she said all of this, when she turns back to the interviewer, those dead eyes return, showing that there's simply nothing there. There's no natural fade from what she's showing, but it is that compartmentalization where she jumps from the demonstration of a particular luck, particular emotions generated by her narcissism, to then the default position. And her narcissism again has let her down because it's failed to segue from one facade to another. And instead, there's a little gap in the film, if you will. so that she's showing this slightly incongruous response, but a response nevertheless to the audience about, I've been on a hiatus, look at me, and then turning, still smiling to the host, and then, before able to put in place something else which might be an expression of interest in what's going to come next, you get what's beneath, which is the emptiness, and you see momentarily that dead look. We pause there, but join me in part 2 for further analysis of this AOL interview, which is chock full of instances of Harry's wife's narcissism in action, and much of it rather toe-curling.